All right, so let's get started. So, welcome to our first Discord Live Dev Q&A. Super excited about this. Hope we continue having our Q&As in this fashion in the future. Before we get started on everything, though, I'd like to just give a brief explanation on what to expect. So, first thing first, we're going to do a brief introduction of all of our guests joining us here today. I'm sure you guys recognize some names from the past. Then we'll move on to the main feature of the event, and that's getting our selected questions answered. So these questions were taken directly from the Discord community. A couple weeks ago, we opened up a channel to collect the questions. As far as our selection, greater emphasis was placed on questions with the most upvotes. I will say, though, I did reword some of them slightly or merge similar questions so that we can get some of the more popular questions into the Q&A. If your question didn't make it, doesn't mean we didn't read them or take them into consideration. We just weren't able to select them all. Also, I know the wipe is on a lot of players' minds right now. So after we finish answering all of our selected questions, Redbeard will be able to kind of give us a brief overview on what to expect at the beginning of the season. And after that, we'll be gathering any additional questions from the community. So if you have more questions or you need more clarification on some of the answers we gave, we'll be able to answer some of those later. All right, so I suppose we'll start with the introductions now. I'm H2O Melons, or Melons for short. If you can't tell already, I am quite obsessed with watermelons. It's my favorite food. So I'm the community manager for Atlas. For those that aren't familiar with what that means, I am essentially the liaison between the players and the developers. I get feedback from the players and bring their concerns forward to the development team. I, in turn, am also, you could say, the spokesperson for the development team. I publish information and manage our social media. So I'll go ahead and pass off to Redbeard to go ahead and introduce himself.
Hey everyone, I'm sure everybody knows who I am at this point. I'm the senior designer for Atlas and the team leader for the design team and development teams. Um, I don't think there's much else. Let's pass it on to Weirdbeard.
Ahoy, Pathfinders. Um, I'm Weirdbeard, former CM for Atlas, community manager, now in QA for Atlas. I know a lot of you wondering why I disappeared so quickly. Just doing, had to go away for a bit for some personal reasons, but now I'm getting settled in the QA team. I'm happy to be there, and then Melons is doing an amazing job in my stead. I just want to thank her and thank you, the community, for all your support throughout my tenure. And please give the same love and support for Melons. She's going to take this to community to great places. I'm not going to say much probably during the Q&A. I'm just going to observe. But if you do have any questions, feel free. I'd be more than happy to answer anything that you guys have. With that, I'll pass it to our leader and one of the most amazing people that I've met, Nami. Go ahead and take it away.
Hi everyone. I don't know. Some of you might know me. Some of you new people might not. But I'm Nami. I was also once upon a time ago one of the CMs here. I've since moved to a more behind the scenes role with the company, working in a lot of marketing campaigns, sales, and project management type stuff. Very excited to have our first live Q&A. So I wanted to drop by, show my support, and say hi to everyone. So yeah, I'll be listening in while I do some of my other work today. But really excited. And with that, I'll pass it back to H2O Melons to go ahead and get the live Q&A started.
All right, great. So we've got 21 questions selected. So I'll just go ahead and go through each one. Then Redbeard will be answering them. So, first question is during early access, wipes are necessary as changes are implemented. However, in this process, the game has shifted heavily towards seasonal play. What is your vision for the long run in regards to wipes? Are you going to continue to embrace the seasonal aspect of the game, or do you hope to eventually get the game in a state where seasons aren't necessary?
It's a great first question, Melons. And so, as Atlas has evolved, we've kind of noticed that this trend that we have the highest number of players during the first month after a wipe. And that goes to show that the land grab, the exploration, and the early days of forging the player companies are some of the best parts of our experience. So we want to preserve that. We're going to be working on various ideas to keep the seasonal based game, but also not require players to have to do the same content every time. So, like some player data will be saved. The Power Stone quest is going to be completely redesigned. When we add achievements to the game, that'll help out with a lot of this. Um, all that being said, how we're going to implement it is still up for design, but it is coming.
All right, great. So, what is the overall plan for the game? Do you have an updated roadmap that you can share with the community?
Yeah, we can expect a roadmap coming up in the next couple weeks that will cover at least the season 10 and season 11. We are upgrading the current systems, adding a few new systems that we feel kind of bring the entire Alice experience together, and then focusing on polish. Our current goal is to end the early access strong to have a really nice release next year. And then the future after early access is over, we'll just have to wait and see.
Are there plans to add to the storyline of the game? For example, right now there are endgame quests and specific items added, but there isn't a lot of lore built into the game around them.
Yes, and my question there would be, what is a game without lore? And the answers to that is, I have a lot of questions about Alice's lore when I came on. Like, what are the Army of the Damned? Where do they come from? What do they do? What is the technology around the Kraken that we're seeing? And why does the world keep changing between our seasons? Um, the storyline of Alice was never really intended to be a high cutscene game. It was more intended to be player driven. So we feel the most exciting way to add lore in a game like ours would be making the world feel alive through scraps of information that you can kind of find through, say, journals, text to read, and the lands to explore. This will allow the players to discover all of the lore for Atlas organically rather than through cutscenes.
All right. Uh, will there ever be like real enemy pirate ships or privateers on the ocean? Will factions ever appear?
Yes, both of those are coming during season 10, and we can expect more than just ships of the dams on the seas this season.
All right, great. So, are there any further plans on developing the ocean?
That's kind of a ambiguous question. If you're referring to trenches, yes, absolutely. If you're also referring to how blank and empty the ocean is at the bottom between islands and trenches, the answer is also yes. Uh, these are goals. It's just not a priority at this time, and we're going to have to probably wait until we leave early access to address those.
All right. So, this next question was probably our most popular one. So, why is new content and items being added to the game when there are still so many bugs that need to get addressed?
Yeah, let's be real on this. Bugs are annoying. We all hate them, especially me, because I have to fix them. We're working as many fixes as we can. When they're reported to us, I'm prioritizing them based on their severity and how many players are affected. But having said that, it is my view that new content is just as important to the overall health of the game. It will take us a while to fix all the fixes, so why not enjoy something new while we're working? And I know everybody's asking this. We have different teams to work on different things. You guys really don't want an artist trying to code a fix for how fast a cannonball moves.
So, are you able to elaborate on the Unreal Engine 5 rumors? It would be great to hear more details about this and how we could expect the change to affect the game. Will it help with the current optimization issues?
Absolutely. Unreal 5 is coming. We're currently in the process of the engine update. Once we're finished with that update, we're going to have one last early access season to ensure it is as bug free as possible and polished. Um, and then have the end of early access. This upgrade is imperative for us because it is allowing us to fix a lot of the optimization issues.
Definitely looking forward to that. So we got a few questions on ships next. So I know a lot of people have some concerns with some of the modular ships and possibly the legacy ships. So what's the plan with the modular and legacy ships? Will legacy ships ever be removed from the game?
No, at this time, there are no plans to remove the legacy ships out of the game. The modular ships were intended to allow players to kind of create a fleet of ships, each with a specific role to play in a fight. Um, the theory behind that is really good. We can all agree that the implementation did not go so well, so that will be fixed.
Right. So one of the biggest appeals of Atlas is building your own unique ship plank by plank. Will more customization options be added to modular ships?
Yes, I firmly believe that building your own ship is half the fun in the game. And to that end, modular ships are being reworked to incorporate all the best parts of the shipbuilding process. So there's going to be tons of new options for customization. All the ship art is being overhauled because they kind of look like Legos right now. Internal rooms and modules are being added. Customizable captain's quarters are being added. Um, to me, the main draw of Atlas is its ships, so we're trying to make that a really good experience.
So there has been an overwhelming amount of player feedback to slow down the modular ships. Do you have any plans to do so?
Yes, we actually did slow them down for season 10. So if you guys want to hop on the PTR and play around with that, they are live right now. Our ship balance is extremely difficult thing in Atlas due to the multiple ship systems being used, and we can all agree that again the implementation of the newer one was not so good. Um, we did learn this past season and last season that changing some things about the ships mid-season resulted in some pretty negative effects. So we won't be doing that mid-season anymore. We're going to be making big changes for the season openers and then just fixing bugs with them during season.
So will the modular ships be better balanced in the future? Right now, most everyone is sailing on ramming galleys.
Yes, they have been updated, like we just talked about. Ramen Galley has been slowed. Its turning has been reduced a little bit. Um, Modular ship base damage was reduced, so it's no longer buffed. There's a lot of minor changes that went with them, and then over the next season, as we're making these changes, they're going to be all focused on balance.
Okay, great. And are there plans to make changes to the modular ship repair system? In their current state, there's no delay for repairing modules, while there is the smoke delay on the legacy ships.
Yeah, the whole process of building, repairing, and customizing the ships is being updated, so it's going to be much more like the legacy ships as soon as we get it finished.
Are there any plans to increase the incentives of ship PvP? The only thing players can consistently and sometimes rarely do right now is battle fleeing ships that will most definitely popcorn their loot and scuttle their ships when they feel like they are losing. There is not much incentive to go out and battle other ships.
Yeah, so to combat this, we implemented the ship in a bottle, which is coming this season. And with this system, players should no longer fear losing hundreds of hours worked in a few moments for their ships. We'll talk about more in ship in a bottle later. We also have another system coming later down the line, the faction system, and part of that will be an improved experience that can offer great rewards for hunting ships on their seas. be they owned by another player or an NPC.
And do you have any plans to change the drop rates, the craft count, and the stat range for current blueprints for crafting? As it is now, we get many not very useful blueprints, and the ones worth using seem to have very low craft counts. Oftentimes, higher tier blueprints can actually have worse stats than lower tier ones.
Yeah, I think that we can fix this by using a tiered system. So a mythical will always be better than uh, a fine, because I've actually experienced that myself while playing and getting fines or journeymans that are better than the mythicals, and that's beyond frustrating.
Another topic that comes up a lot is islands. So, is the team going to take a look at the existing island templates and overhaul them prior to the game's official launch? Many of the islands aren't very useful in PvP due to either having no natural harbor, having too shallow water in the harbors, or just being too tall to be able to place island defenses.
Yes, absolutely. And the only reason that it is taking so long for us to do that is the sheer number of islands we have in the game. There's literally hundreds of them. So at a bare minimum, it would probably take entire seasons of one dev's time just to adjust them. We have received lists of a lot of the issue islands, or islands that would be really good if the pillars were lowered or if a bay was deepened. So we will be focusing on those ones first when we have time.
So, are there any current plans to reduce structure spam?
Yes, the majority of Alice's issues, optimization, lag, and exploits are all kind of directly related to the structure spam. Um, the issue here is that building a base for PvP to be able to expand a raid requires players to cover like almost every inch of their islands, and then kind of build an absurd wall around their islands. So with the engine update, we are aggressively changing the structure limits and adding other ways to prevent enemy building on islands and address the land defensive options.
Okay. So in PvE, people tend to cover the islands quickly with warehouses, so it's impossible to find a spot later on in the season. Are there any plans on modifying the warehouses so this isn't an issue?
Yes, throughout the season 10, we're going to be revamping the trade system. So this includes warehouses and auto farms. So we can expect to see a much smoother, easier experience here without having to cover all like every island. And then the radius of these farms will be different.
And are there any plans to make living in Freeport no longer possible?
I can say that it won't be completely removed until we add some way for smaller solo companies not to lose everything every time they log out.
That's probably a good thing for them. And would you consider making a separate server for single players and tiny companies?
It can be done, but it is a complicated issue. Uh, we have to take into account how many players would be consistently on them to warrant the cost of the servers and what kind of impacts that would have on the core PvP server. I don't really think anybody wants a huge map with the four mega companies on it. Um, I think a better solution might be to address the issues that prevent solo players and small companies from not being viable and not being fun.
Is there an estimate on when the single player world map will be updated to match the new multiplayer map?
Uh, yes, should come sometime this season. We're working on a way so that we're going to not be limited to choosing a single season's map for single player. Um, the option we're inclined to go with is using free DLCs like Blackwood so that players can just download the season's map that they want to play on.
And another hot topic right now is Xboxes. So, right now for Xbox, this game seems to be only playable for the Series X. Are there plans to make it more Xbox friendly?
Yes, great news on that. We are in the very final stages of fixing that today, actually. So I believe it will make it for the patch next week, but if it does not, it will be in the very first patch of the new season.
All right, great.
We had to kind of rewrite the entire code base for the Series S, which
Uh,
is why it took so long.
that sounds like quite a task. All right, well, that was the end of our pre selected questions. So, like I said earlier, I think what's on a lot of people's minds right now is the upcoming wipe. As far as I know, still on schedule for next Wednesday. Redbeard, if you could kind of just give us a brief overview of what we can expect at the beginning of the season.
Yes, there's a couple big changes happening. Mainly the ship in a bottle is what everybody's worried about. Um, to that end, a couple questions that I've had sent to me was people are afraid, at least on PvP, that allowing people to duplicate bottles is going to allow the creation of fleets in very minimal time. We took that into account. We designed it so that you could only have your original ship or one of the duplicates out at a single time in the game world. So you can never have all four of the ships that you've made out of a single ship out at the same time. There was a bug that we noticed on the PTR yesterday that was allowing for that on PvP servers. So for the first month of the game, duplication has been disabled for PvP. It is still able on PvE. Another system that is coming that I don't think there's been much talk about was our sea forts. Uh, we have been thinking of ways to expand and fix our trading system. And the main opportunity that we found there was sea forts. So at season launch, we're going to have a updated sea fort experience, albeit mainly visual for the small version of Seaforts. Over the next couple months, they'll be adding additional large scale Seaforts, which will feature kind of a raid like experience for players to have for PvE. For PvP, when people claim the Seaforts, they'll be able to add defensive structures, add defensive crew members, tames, creatures, and everything to protect their Seaforts.
All right. Great. So I think it's time to look to the community for additional questions. So if you'd like to ask something additional, go ahead and post that in our temp Q&A chat and we'll take a look through some of them. I've seen a couple of questions already about when will be a dev kit update, and I'll add on to that with a server grid editor update.
Both of those should be. I will have to check with my teams, but they should be out mid next week with the patch.
Oh, that's pretty exciting. All right, let me just look through the questions again. Let's see. Are there any current plans for changing the armored docks?
Yes. So with ship in a bottle, armored docks are going to be adjusted. They have had a minor adjustment, and I think this is a good time to tell everybody this. All shipyards, you will be only limited to 3 per type, per grid, per company for the following season. Um, the armored dock in specific will be changed sometime mid-season. And that answer is for both. So you can have a total of, I think it's 12. No, that's bad math. Anyway, you get 3 per type of shipyard or ship house.
And any plans on changing how the drakes and the token bosses are handled in the game?
There's been a lot of discussion about that between the team. I think everybody knows I do not personally like being able to tame them. Uh, but we recently asked the question for feedback about the mythical tames, and everybody seems to really enjoy them, or they have a specific purpose, so they will remain there, at least for the time being. Um, we do have a team working directly on fixing and updating all of the creatures of Atlas, so they will be adjusted to be better in the future. Yes.
And are there any plans to change the visual design of the Ship of the Dam?
Yes, that is upcoming as well. I think they kind of look a little alien and out of place right now, so we are replacing them with a natural uh, pirate ship that just looks cursed rather than alien.
Are there any plans for a PlayStation release?
That is also a complicated question. The short answer is it's possible.
Possible, but no
Yeah,
guarantees at this point.
yeah, exactly. It really depends on how we do at the end of early access. Let's put it that way.
Okay. And do we have an estimate on the Unreal Engine 5 update?
We can expect that early next year.
So I know one of the main issues right now in the game is the tames falling off ships, one grid changing. Can you just give us little details on the status on getting that fixed?
Uh, Tames falling off of ships through our investigation has kind of related to a larger core game mechanic or code base issue that's happening. So for now, we're fixing it on a case by case basis, but with the engine update, it will be fixed in the core game code, so it won't happen again.
Let's see. How about the rates in the new season? Are we going to be sticking with just 5 times the whole season again?
It seems like 5 was a good choice for most of the season. The original plan here was to have weekends be 5 and weekdays be 3, and then occasional special events would be higher. Um, and it wouldn't always be the same per weekend. So like it could be like resource gathering would be 5x this weekend, or tame speed would be 5x this weekend. Just give a little bit of excitement for different times of the month.
Okay. And then, let's see, any chance of Alliance members being able to use things on ships?
Yes, we are working on a system to the first part of it is getting alliance members to use a special bed on ships so you can go to your allies ships or your bases. As for other systems, we are working on it again when we have time.
Let's see, going through the questions still. Will the game ever be on Game Pass? Not sure.
There's a possibility. I don't have any control or say over that, so I cannot comment on that other than saying maybe, maybe not.
Okay. And we talked about getting a dev kit update and upgrading to Unreal Engine 5. How will the upgrade affect modders in the dev kit?
So yes, when we're upgrading to Unreal Engine 5, the dev kit will also be updated. This does unfortunately mean that the mods created in the Unreal Engine 4 version will have to be either adjusted or redone in the new dev kit for the Unreal Engine 5. Specific instances for the community servers, I am working on several options to see if we can minimize this impact. Um, and more news on that will come soon, but hopefully it will be a negligible impact if everything goes well.
So during the time when the modular ships are overhauled, will they be lootable by players who sink them?
Yes, they should be.
Okay, perfect.
I think it's silly that you can't loot everything you destroy.
Are there currently any plans to add any new maps similar to Blackwood?
We've talked about it a lot in our internal meetings. We have thought of doing a lot of smaller DLC based maps like Blackwood that would introduce different areas of the world. Um, so as everybody can see through our world map, we've been trying to transition to a alternate Earth experience for Atlas, so it kind of makes sense. So if we did do this, you could expect to see like a whole expansion for um, a snow region or like an ice region or sand like Africa or something like that. This also gives us opportunity to expand on trenches for like Atlantean stuff as well.
Are there any plans on adding any new ships, or are we pretty set on what we have now?
There are plans for a lot of new ships. I believe we have 10 new modular ships coming. That number may change, but they won't be introduced until we fix and update the system. Adding new ships without fixing the system doesn't make sense.
I see a lot of questions about if certain bugs are going to be fixed, and I'm just going to say to those asking that, most of those are listed in our public issue tracker. So you can see yourself when we've started working on those, or if they're actually already fixed and just waiting for a patch. So I'm going to recommend people go ahead and take a look at that if they haven't seen it. You can join the Atlas issue tracker channel in their Discord, and there's a link there. All right. Well, I think we are going to go ahead and wrap this up. So I just want to thank everybody for showing up and listening. So I think it was I think we did. Oh, hold on.
There are a couple questions that I'm seeing right now that I think it's
Oh,
good to address.
oh yeah. If you wanted to answer any of them anymore, go for it.
Yes. As we are exiting early access, our enforcement is ramping up. I think everybody had a fairly negative experience this last season with our wide bans. Having said that, we are going to be updating our systems so that we are able to get individuals. Certain offenses are still company wide, though. If the entire company benefits from the bannable offense, the entire company will still be banned. Um, Having said that, that will be extremely rare. Let's see. One of the other questions was the map always going to be portal based or return to one big map? Uh, the map when the portals were always intended to give uh, easy fast travel throughout the world. You should be able to sail to the majority of the game at any given time. We are working on a system to have servers and grids that come online for certain amounts of time and then go offline for additional content, additional routes, and those will probably be portal based for the majority. At this time, there is no plan for flying ships. That's more than likely never coming. For an Xbox only server, that is also more than likely not coming. For combat, I see a lot of you guys asking about combat in the game. With the engine update, we are going to completely redo the combat system, so it's going to feel much smoother and nicer and not so bloated. You guys keep asking about friendly fire for tames, for melee, for everything. It is possible to turn that on, however, that's going to drastically change the game. So if we did do that, it would be on a smaller test server for a hardcore, super hardcore game experience. A lot of you guys keep asking about cosmetic items to pay real life money for to help support the game. For example, ship cannon skins. We will internally discuss that, and if it is deemed appropriate, we might pursue it or we might not. I cannot make any promises. And think I think we're good now. Legacy ships, sorry, yes. Legacy ships still have their place in PvP. They are customizable to the point where it is always impossible to get rid of them. There's so many tactics that I see players do that we just cannot replicate with a modular ship. Having said that, we are focusing on the modular ship system, but we will be balancing it to make it sure that the legacy ships and that customization is not lost. I think we're running out of time here, so I want to thank everybody for your questions and coming here, and turn it back over to Melons.
All right. Well, like Redbeard was saying, thank you all for joining us. I hope we can do these regularly. That's my plan, anyways. So this won't be their last one. And yeah, that's everything. So thank you for joining us, and have a good rest of your guys' day. And there will be a written version for those who either missed the Q&A or maybe joined us later on. I'll be publishing that soon.
All right, take care, everybody. Thanks for coming.